Welcome to the Czech Republic, to the new episode of JF Motorcycles, the independent motorcycle reviews. And today I would like to answer the question whether, if you're a beginner, whether you should buy the MT-03, the Yamaha, or MT-07, maybe with 35 kilowatts. Which is better for the start? Let's say you want to start with motorcycles, maybe you are 18 years old, maybe you have the A2 riding license, and you are thinking which bike is best to get the confidence, to get the basic riding skill, and basically to start. So today I took two Yamahas from the offer. This is MT-03 and this is MT-07, and I would like to answer the question which one is better for the beginners. This cost about 5,000 euros and it's quite lightweight, 168 kilos. It has parallel twin, 321 cc, about 42 horsepower. Quite nice, very potent engine, very fun to ride it. And then we have a classic motorcycle, very good. Just, you know, it has loads of good feedback from anyone. It's just mature motorcycle, MT-07, with about 182 kilos, about 7,000 euros, and you can buy it with 35 kilowatts variant with no additional money, no additional costs. And then the question gets quite difficult, right? First of all, these two bikes, despite the fact that they are called similarly, like MT-03 and MT-07, and in this scenario they have the same color, they don't share much parts together. They are not really similar motorcycles, except a few minor parts, such as blinkers, such as levers, grips, and maybe mirrors. Not really much of them. And then, you know, if you take the frame, if you take brakes, if you take engine, if you take all the ergonomy of the bike, tank and everything, it's all different. So this one, the MT-03, is based on the R3, the sport version, the sport bike with the small engine, 300 cc. So, you know, it doesn't have the fairings, but despite the fact it's the same bike. And this year, to be honest, in 2019, the R3 got the upside down fork, and so this still stays with the same 41mm classic fork, but it is a sportier position, and you sit way more inside the motorcycle than on the MT-07. And the good thing is that it's very lightweight, 168 kilos. You will feel it on the road, you will feel it with the manipulation on the bike. And another thing which reminds you the sport bike is of course the engine and the classic tacho, which wants you to rev the engine to 12,000 RPM and enjoy it. And it's really fun because you can rev the engine very high and still go around the legal limits, which is quite fun. And it's absolutely different than the MT-07, which is about 182 kilos, about 14 kilos difference. And it's also the separate bike. It's in the offer. The engine I already tested in many bikes. It's so you can probably find on my YouTube channel the test of the Tracer or MT-07, and it's absolutely reliable and nice engine. Speaking of engines, and we have here two parallel twins. This is 321 cc, and then we have 689 cc. The difference is not just the cc and the maximum power and torque, but the architecture of the engine is different, because here we have the classic 270-degree crankshaft, the firing interval, which means that this bike and this engine is a little bit like the V-twin, even with the sound, and it has way more torque from the ground or from the low RPM range. But here, this is a classic conception of the engine with 180-degree firing interval, with the classic piston going like this, and which means that this bike, and because of the other things inside, is really wants to be revved and wants to be taken to close to the ref limiter. Now we can compare the sounds. It's quite silent after the start in both cases. In this case, you will feel the displacement. and you will also feel the different architecture. But in both cases, I would love to hear and see the aftermarket exhaust, which would really bring some emotions. In this bike, it's extraordinary when you buy one, and here I don't know, but I guess it will be really helpful in terms of emotions. The engines in these bikes are very different, but I would like to say that this is not slow at all. And when you rev it, it just goes quite fast. On the highway, if you go uphill, it can stay with 160 kilometers per hour, and the maximum was about 182 or 183 kilometers per hour, which is really good. On the other hand, this bike, when it's open to 55 kilowatts, of course, it's a mature bike and it can go more than 200 kilometers, and it does 180 kilometers per hour on the 4th gear. So yeah, that's the thing. But they have all different behavior, and we will look at it on the road soon. When we look at the electricity and electronic assistance, etc., these bikes look sort of the same. None of them has the traction control. They both has ABS in standard in Europe. They have classic bulb lights and an LED light in the back, and they both have classic blinkers. Here we have still the analog or classic speed tacho, and here we have the LCD display, which does the job, and it's up to you which you like better. Again, the suspension is the thing which on the paper looks similar, 41 millimeters, similar suspension travels in both situations. It's non-adjustable in the front and preload in the back, in both bikes. But here you can also adjust the rebound. But it looks similar on the paper, but it's absolutely different components, and you will feel it on the road. One of the major differences, however, are the brakes, because here we have the 4-piston calipers on a double disc, and then we have the single disc and 2-piston caliper, and the difference is just extraordinarily big, I would say, and you would feel way more safe on the MT-07 mature bike rather than on the MT-03. It doesn't need to be a problem when you go slow, when you go maybe like 100 kilometers per hour, just cruising. But if you want to enjoy the full potential of the engine and go maybe 160 or 170 or taking the circuit, maybe you will think about the upgrade. That's a short introduction of these two bikes, and now we can head up to the road and find the answer on this question. So I'm now sitting on the MT-03, which is based on the R3, the sport bike, a small engine sport bike. It doesn't have fairings, but regardless, and different handlebars. But it is the sporting riding position, to be honest. And you sit way more inside the motorcycle when you compare it with the MT-07. And I have to tell you that it brings sporty sort of emotions because of the engine, which likes to be revved high. It doesn't provide much in the low and mid RPM range, but it has everything starting from 8,000 RPM, and then it starts some fun. So if you want to go fast, you need to rev it hard, and that's sort of something which makes it nice, and especially in these days. So you can ride like on the 3rd gear, close to rev limiter, and enjoy almost legal speeds on the road, which is something I don't meet or I don't experience very often these days on something like 1200cc motorcycles, and etc. So I enjoy it. So the maximum speed of the MT-03 is something like 182 kilometers per hour, which I did on the highway. So, but it can do something like 160 kilometers per hour, even in the long, sort of a steep hill, if you rev it really hard on the 5th gear, close to the rev limiter. So it can be fast if you want. Probably the biggest advantage of this bike is that you can rev it, you can enjoy this, different colors of this engine, and still go quite easy and be safe. So the question is, how this work for the beginner? First of all, we have 168 kilos. The bike feels very lightweight, of course, very nimble and agile. It's not such a big difference in comparison to MT-07, which has about 14 kilograms more, but you will feel it, you know, before the entering of the bend, of course, and the beginner can sort of improve or change the speed, brake a little bit harder, and improve or change the angle. So from this point of view, I think that's quite fine. Of course, the bike is lighter, it has a little bit less stability in the corner or in high speeds, going straight away, than on the MT-07. Yeah, it's fun, really. Speaking of fun, we have to think about brakes, which here is just a 2-piston caliper on single disc, and with my 110 kilos, it's not anything special, to be honest, and it's a big difference on the MT-07. So it depends on how fast you will be riding, or maybe your kit will be riding. If you will be using the full potential of the engine and sometimes really ride like 170 kilometers per hour, the brakes are not enough, and I would think about the upgrade maybe. So in this angle, the MT-07 is way better and more safe. Speaking of traveling, the riding position is less comfortable than on the MT-07, but on the other hand, the rear shock is less comfortable on the MT-07. Here on the bumps and on the broken asphalt is a little bit more comfy, the MT-03, but the overall riding position and sort of a feeling from, you know, sort of, if I could think on which bike I would rather like to travel, I would take MT-07, of course. You feel way more relaxed and easy. And here there are some vibrations you can perceive, especially around maybe 9,000 RPM. You feel it from the foot pegs mainly, and a little bit you will feel it from the seat. So it's not bad. I think it just brings you more sporty emotions, but from the point of view of traveling, of course, this is a small engine, small displacement engine motorcycle, so it's important to mention. I like the classic tacho, which is not digital, and I like it more maybe than on the all sorts of digital ones. It motivates you to rev the engine and enjoy the ride. Very nice. The MT-03 has also about 1 to 1.5 liters less consumption on 100 kilometers. So that's another maybe good argument. So you will save some money not only in the beginning when you buy the motorcycle, but also in the long term, I guess. Again, on the bumps and broken asphalt, it's more comfortable, this small motorcycle, than the MT-07. The sound is not bad when you take into account that it's the small displacement engine, but again, I would love to have here some aftermarket exhaust, which would probably improve the overall emotions way more. So I hope I will have the possibility to test one day. So this MT-07 has the full 55 kilowatts, so I don't have the possibility to test the 35 kilowatts. So the engine is significantly stronger, and you immediately feel way more comfortable, as I told you, and sort of not just comfortable, but really way more relaxed. The angle of the knees is not that sportier, that sharp, and you suddenly feel, you know, huge amount of torque in the bends, which supports you and very easily allow you to exit. And it doesn't motivate you to really rev the engine. This MT-07, of course, can be very wild, of course, you know. This bike can be very fast, but in the stock, with the stock exhaust, it really doesn't chase you, and it leaves you to go very easy if you will and if you want. Fourth gear, so easy ride. And to be honest, it's more fun to rev the MT-03. You just put here, let's try, because the best which this engine provides is in the mid RPM range, and then rev it to 10,000 doesn't really make sense. It goes fast then, it can go over the 200 kilometers per hour, and it can do 180 kilometers per hour on the four gear just, which is nice. But it really doesn't want you to go fast, and it can be really easy going motorcycle. I feel more stability even in the slow speeds, which brings you, which creates this emotion of a very calm and safe ride. So nice. I have to say that I am used to more, or I grown up on the naked bikes rather than sport bikes, so I somehow even like more the feeling of the MT-07 in the corner. It's just something I really like and enjoy. So easy, so nice. You have the feeling of the more solid motorcycle, more expensive of course. Also the brakes, it's so much better. It's so better, the brakes, of course double disc and 4-piston calipers, but it's just a huge difference in safety. You will feel these 14 kilograms as the difference, but it's something like 10 or 15%, so it's not much. And for me, for the more experienced rider with 110 kilos, I would rather be sitting or riding the MT-07, as I feel more, even somehow better from all points of view. But the question was whether you should choose as a starting bike the MT-03 or MT-07, and that's a tough one. Of course there is a price difference, so if you are trying to save money, you have just one choice, and I would go for MT-03, have it 1 or 2 years and sell it, because the price will probably not drop much, and you will have a very nice bike which is fun to ride. It's just such a fun thing, this engine in the MT-03. You will even save some money on the gas, which is nice, and you will definitely learn all the fundamentals of riding. You will get the self-confidence enough to be riding the big bikes, and then after 2 years or 1 year or 3 years, whatever you want, you can choose which bike to ride. Now, that's something I would probably do, and even especially if you are you don't have 100 kilos as me, and you are probably lighter, or you are a girl, then I would even more go for the MT-03. On the other hand, if you like this strong engine from the ground, from the low and mid RPM range, and you know that you will stay with MT-07 for maybe another 2 or 3 years or 5 years, probably then the investment is right, and you should buy the MT-07. So that was another video from JF Motorcycles. Thank you for watching, and let me know what you think. Let me know what bike would you choose, and subscribe my channel if you liked it. Goodbye.